The following episode of the Carnival of Randomness is sponsored by an important message to you, the people, from Upsitnik and Associates. Every day there are forces that are taking from you, stealing from you. Your money, your time, your freedom. Immense faceless corporations, banks, credit card companies, insurance providers, government agencies, this list goes on and on. When you are under attack and facing crisis, turn to us, Upsitnik and Associates, attorneys for you, the people. When every day becomes a battle, we can advise and assist. We have been advocates for 40 years. Email us through upsitnikslaw.com or call us at 1-866-391-3299 or reach out to us through Upsitnik and Associates on Facebook for a prompt, no obligation communication and consultation. Don't be pushed around.
Soon. Hello, everybody. I think we're being interrupted before we start here. This is an episode of Carnival of Randomness again. And we're talking movies, filmmaking, and everything, though it is not necessarily talking shit.
No.
Though somebody may say shit. So it's me, as always, Rob, and Isaac.
Well, shit.
And then we have Greg number 1, who's been here.
Hello.
And then we have Greg number 2.
Hello.
I'm always talking shit.
Yeah. So, actually, one of the questions I was going to ask about is, I know, Greg, you were talking about Humphrey Bogart, some of the films you've seen. You said he's actually very funny.
He was. It was a kind of a weird mix-up of a movie called All Through the Night. And Bogey plays this, he's like this slick guy. And it's kind of like in the war era, so World War II era, so, things are tight. And he's apparently he plays the races, and he's like a gambling guy, and he helps out. He's got a bunch of these cronies who also in the movie was Jackie C. Gleason, who's obviously Jackie Gleason, but he's spouting off one-liners left and right. And it's interesting to see him in a younger, period. And William Demarest. I mean, I just had a great lineup of characters. Anyway, so he has this little gang of buddies that, and then they get involved. There's this Nazi thing, and they find there's a body in a bakery. It's all kinds of weird stuff. But anyway,
Talk about your buns.
The line I was telling you about was that they're going through this warehouse and they see this picture of Hitler, and they start to put it together, right? That these guys are fifth columnists and all that. And he goes, "There's more here than meets the FBI." So I thought that was a good line.
But that's the thing. Is it really, you consider how movies are made now, is it the end of the iconic actor, really?
I don't think so. I think Brad Pitt, George Clooney, I think those are guys that are pretty much iconic actors. I mean, they're like the smooth leading men guys. And then you got the different types. You got Daniel Craig, and I mean, they're around. I think it's just that it's a niche more now than it used to be.
One of the things, I was thinking in terms of how they have all these huge blockbusters and superhero movies. It almost seems they could plug somebody in. It's not like somebody, I think if they're going to do something good, they need the right person. But now I think they look more like, okay, we're going to put the movie out, the franchise. We'll get who we get.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is still hit and miss. I mean, I guess you ever see those the Christopher Reeve Superman, the old one, the Richard Donner? Did you ever see the screen test for the guys that they got tried before him? It's important that you find the right person. So,
oh, definitely.
They used what was it? The producer's somebody's dentist husband. There's a screen test with him, and he's doing a scene. He's it's pretty funny.
But here's a little question for both of you, maybe, because we're talking about films. I remember reading, I think it was in Film Comment or somewhere, that they considered maybe 50 years from now, the two actors that would be remembered most would be Bogart and Jack Nicholson. Do you think anybody from these days, people are going to look back on and really go, this guy really sticks out or not?
Well, I mean, are we just talking men or are we talking women
Anybody.
as well?
Anybody. When I say actors, I mean everybody.
Obviously, we have Daniel Day-Lewis.
Right, he's a big one.
And I think as far as leading men go, I think DiCaprio has established himself as being as versatile as anyone. I mean, if you jump from, Gilbert Grape all the way through. I mean, Titanic's painful. I'll never watch it again. But if you jump into movies like from The Aviator up to, what he did in The Departed to what he did in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and obviously he deserved his Academy Award in Revenant, whether or not you like the movie. But
I agree.
Just from freezing out there and everything, too.
But I mean, I'm trying to keep track. I mean, obviously, Meryl Streep. I was actually never a big Meryl Streep fan until I think in the last 10 years when she jumped from Devil Wears Prada to Doubt to The Iron Lady, and she's jumped through some of those movies. I've never seen Ironweed though, so that's something.
I have. It was slow.
Ironweed, yeah. Well, Jack Nicholson's in that, so
Yeah.
But no.
But-
Well, what do you consider when you say from this time would people look back on? You mean that are alive and acting now, or of a certain age?
yeah. I mean, what's the age range we
Well,
hear?
let's
So-
say newer act because if
I mean,
we look
Olivia de Havilland's still alive. She's 100.
Yeah,
and then
she
she's
is
I know,
102.
Yeah, 'cause
somebody would be
you also
like
got
talking
like
about
Judi Dench and Maggie Smith and all them.
Yeah. So
That's
You know.
true. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's that older vanguard of stage actors that are, that's where they came up, and that's a whole different thing. When you're a stage actor and you go to film, I think you have a different. You just present yourself differently. It's a different training. It's a different way of doing things. You can tell a good stage actor because they can just stand there and act. And they don't have to say a damn thing. And I agree with him, with Greg here. He's Meryl Streep. You know what I thought was a great movie, which was really out of her realm, was that Death Becomes Her. Did you see
I
that?
Oh,
don't
the one
think I
with
saw it.
Bruce Willis and
And Goldie
Goldie
Hawn.
Hawn.
Oh my
yeah.
God, that was a great movie. It was dark as hell, funny.
Yeah, it was real funny.
It was a really good one.
Was that mid-90s, I think?
It was
Yeah.
early 90s?
It was
late
hilarious.
80s or early 90s.
It's kind of like an Addams Family-ish sort of macabre thing. I really enjoyed that. I like movies like that. A lot of times, as a general rule, if movies get panned, I want to go see them because I figure if nobody's getting it, I'll
But
probably
that's a
get
good
it.
question. That's a good question to actually bring up. Are there like anything recently, non-recently, movie that got really crap reviews at Pan, but you think's really great?
well, I don't read reviews, so there's no point of reference.
Well, just I don't either.
Oh man, I'm trying to think. What is something that people hated? So
Spice Girls movie.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't know if I can get through that movie. So
No, actually, that's a good one. Have there been any like really that you just said I can't get through this and you had to stop?
all the time. Yeah.
I mean, we've tried a lot of times.
Or the ever popular, you watch a movie and you're halfway through it and then you realize you've seen it, but it was so bad you blocked it out.
Yeah.
That happens to me often.
But there's a little question I was going to bring up. This came from Quentin Tarantino, actually, and I just wanted your thoughts on this. He said the worst decades for filmmaking were the 1980s and the 1950s.
I think he's full of shit.
The
I'm
nin-
just going to throw that out there. 1980s was...
No, what he said about the 1980s was that the one thing he did like were the silly comedies.
Well, yeah.
That was the one thing. Would otherwise,
Silly comedies and camp action movies. What else did you need?
I think both decades were kind of fluffy. But I mean, Rear Window was in the 50s, and a lot of Hitchcock's movies were in the 50s. I don't know when he made Hitchcock made Shadow of the Doubt, North by Northwest.
40s.
No, well, Rear Window was 55.
Right.
Yeah.
The Shadow of a Doubt was 48-ish.
48. Yeah,
Yeah, that was a good movie.
yeah. So, and I'm trying to think of like
Most of his stuff was 60s. It's North by
some of those
Northwest.
Orson Welles movies. I think they're all 40s. Lady of Shanghai, Magnificent Emersons.
Ambersons was
Yeah.
40s.
Well, On the Waterfront was what, 53?
I think The Stranger
Yeah,
was in the 50s.
I don't know.
On the Waterfront was in the 50s.
Yeah, you have Streetcar Named Desire.
You know, I've tried to watch Lady from Shanghai a few times. I have it, and I just like it. It's fairly slow. It's good, and it's just I've never gotten through it. And it looks like a cool movie though, especially the thing with the mirror, the Hall of Mirror thing. That's like such
It's
a
actually
classic.
Orson Welles, Citizen Kane, and all. You think that's considered one of the great things because of the photography and
I
everything?
told you I thought Orson Welles would make the best Batman ever.
Yeah, he probably
And well,
would've.
Bruce Wayne. More and
know
more
what?
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I
about
see him as Bruce Wayne.
Not this bastard.
So we've been trying to come up with a quintessential like Bruce Wayne, and we think Orson Welles has that kind of detached, like
Wouldn't they catch him
aristocrat
though
to
when he had the mask on because of the voice?
Your voice is too distinctive.
Yeah.
It actually would be. I mean, that was actually a good. Orson Welles is Batman.
Yeah.
It's... I
Because remember, Bill Murray was going to be Batman in the '80s in a musical comedy for a while.
No.
Yeah, for real.
Oh my God.
Well, there we go. Bill Murray. Was Groundhog Day in the 80s or the 90s?
91, 92.
All right.
Did you know
Meatballs.
that? Did you
That
know
is my
Orson-
answer to that statement.
Meatballs was in the late '70s though.
Yeah, I thought it was like 82. I don't know.
It might have been before, but I guess in Meatballs, the reason they called it Meatballs, they were going to call it Summer Camp, but there was a name that was already used. So Meatballs, they decided was like the stock lunch and dinner you would get at camp. So that's why.
Did you know Orson Welles was originally on The Shadow, the radio? He did The Shadow.
Yep.
Back in the late 30s.
That's how he started on the Mercury Theater, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
And all those. Is there any, like, because actually one of the ones I like of his is The Stranger.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an awesome movie. That's really
Stranger's good movie.
Because I had one, I go in streaks, and like a year ago or so, I just got out and I watched a whole bunch of Orson Welles movies.
I mean, The Third Man's one of my favorites, but I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't direct that. That was Carol Reed. So.
And Charlton Heston is a Mexican.
Right, I know that one's that's
Say
a
Ed
stretch.
Wood. That's from Ed Wood, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What was worse, Charlton Heston as a Mexican or John Wayne as Genghis Khan or Genghis Khan?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Andy Rooney is an Asian.
But you gotta like a movie,
Jesus,
Third
that
Man. You gotta like a movie with a zither soundtrack. I mean, how many movies have a zither soundtrack?
Yeah, I know.
That's a fair point. And there's probably a reason.
That's
for
the
that.
great theme, the Third Man theme. That
But that
Very
seems
cool.
these days, I mean, probably the difference that you consider this is the age of the blockbuster and the big comic book movie and everything.
Well,
And it, you know,
it's funny. It's actually the reason the blockbusters is because of digital, and it's not even just the computers. It's like the studios have found if they make a $20 million film, they're competing with people who make a $100,000 film. But if they make a $240 million film, they're competing with no one. So that's why they're basically focusing on
Good
that.
point.
They made a shift from doing about 40, 50 movies a year down to about 12, just because they don't want to compete with people who can, make a film for $20,000. It's like it's too much of a financial risk.
yeah,
So,
the independent guys are starting to get them nervous.
Yeah,
And that's
And I think rightfully so. And we were talking earlier about streaming services. The streaming service is going to be the downfall of the film festival.
yeah,
right.
and rightfully so. Good for them.
But that's partially people's fault too. People are getting lazy. They don't want to go out.
Yeah,
They
I
don't
want
want to
instant
experience the
gratification. I want to
theater
push
at all.
3 buttons and watch a movie now.
Yeah, I don't really want. I'm in my house enough. I want to get out and see it. And I mean, it's, blizzards be damned. I want to. I'd much rather see a movie in a theater.
Well, I've always thought about movies, seeing it in a theater with this big screen and the sound system. It can make a mediocre movie good and a good movie great.
Right.
Just see, because like I saw the one I didn't care for, but I saw Avatar. I watched it at home. People are like, oh, it was so good in the theater. I could see why. In the theater, that would be fantastic, but movie wise, I didn't care.
I don't know. I started watching that. And speaking of the streaming, my girlfriend she signed up for the Disney thing. So I watched that for a little bit because I had kind of forgotten the plot. And it's a very interesting concept, and it's very otherworldly, and that's why it's such a cool movie, because it's like you're just watching it and you're just going, what the? It's like it takes you somewhere very different. It's like a completely different world, so to speak.
what I heard about Avatar when it came out, and I lived by a theater, and I guess for months you couldn't get into the IMAX 3D, but they said if you saw it in that, it would almost look like when you're going down the waterfall, you're doing all this.
Right.
Yeah. I've only seen it on television. So
I saw it, and it once
Yeah,
was enough.
It's pretty cool.
It's Fern Gully.
I've avoided every James Cameron script after The Terminator. So
You still hold Piranha, dear, I hope.
Piranha, I don't know. I don't even know if
That
I've
was
seen
the early one he did. It was like
Yeah,
before Terminator.
You always forget that, and I think he's not upset that people forget that.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
He probably wants to put the Abyss out of his mind after Ed Harris gave him a taste of his hand.
But that's one thing, I mean, I've dabbled in filmmaking a little bit. Greg's done films, and that's one thing I was going to ask. I think you would actually like Greg number 2's film. He's done movies 3.14, right?
3.14.
And now when you did, part of it too is, I would say, where did you come up about doing this? Why did you just enjoy,
Actually, the way it, I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and as trite as it sounds, I have a friend, he works in applied science. He was getting his PhD in applied science when I was in college, so I used to hang out with physicists. And he's from Russia, and he called me up and he's like, oh my God, I had this dream And it was basically a straight linear climactic plot. And I was like, okay, I'll write it down. So I wrote it down, and I was like, cool. And I was sitting at the bar a couple years later, and some guy started talking to me about his desert property, and I'm like, oh my God, this sounds like the perfect location for my film. So he took me out there, and it worked well. The issue was that it was probably only a short, and it was only going to run about 30 to 40 minutes. So I kind of did a deconstructed plot, and so we blocked it off, and it's kind of like 3 or 4 different plots in its own way, and that was the way we funded it and was able to turn it into a feature. And so we shot half of it here in Rochester and half of it in
What
Death
was it
Valley.
called?
3.14. Oh. So we're recutting it now. We're actually going to be putting it up on Amazon.
I admit, too,
cool.
there's just something still when you see something. It's Dogtown!
Oh, yeah. No, that's fun seeing some of the... Man, we must have shot at like 20 different local places. I mean, from jumping from Mount Hope Cemetery to, the courthouse where Susan B. Anthony had her trial, and so it was kind of neat jumping around. I think we shot at Temple Sinai at Penfield. Well, I know we shot there. So, yeah, it was kind of fun. It was a good way to learn a lot of different Rochester locations.
I never heard of this. There's a movie called After, and I just found it recently.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of it.
Oh, you've heard it? It's, And I did not realize it's shot in Rochester.
Yeah.
It's a case of it's after 9/11,
wow.
and it's a family. There's a business, and the family's sort of falling apart, and there's a secret that's going to come out that's going to sort of like really wreck the family.
I'll have to look for that movie. I mean,
I've never heard of that.
I just found it by accident, and the whole story's about the one guy, the female in the story. Her father doesn't want her to marry the person she's engaged to, basically because he's very conservative and he's a capitalist, and he does not think he'll be able to provide for her. And he wants to go. He's actually wanting to go to RIT. That's his big thing. He's going to go study at RIT.
Okay.
And after that, I'm looking around saying, wait a second, I think I know that bar. I know this place and everything.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's distracts, but it's like, wait a second, this is kind of cool.
I think they shot at Bamba Bistro, which is now Oxenstone.
Oxenstone, yeah.
The weird thing about
which
it is I saw it
Which,
at
if you
first.
didn't know this, the Rio Bamba, which was like probably the fine dining.
Yeah, that's
the
cool.
Doors once ate there, which was kind of cool. So,
Yep,
Really?
they did.
At the
Yeah, I threw up in the parking lot one time when I was drunk.
I saw
that was
a
very
field sobriety test. I saw a field
I
sobriety
can't
test
unsee
occur.
that now.
yeah,
No, I saw a field sobriety test occur in that parking lot.
yeah,
Yeah, we used to see that all the time.
That was hilarious.
Because we worked like around there.
At the Rio Bamba?
Yeah, it was late at night, and the guy started arguing with the cop. And we're like, no, don't argue.
I know.
And, like the cop hears us and looks like, shut up.
one of my old bosses, Jerry Verassi, who was co-owner of Two Line, he told me a story. He was working at Rio Bamba as a sous chef in the 60s, and there was a 24-hour convenience store there. I don't know if any of you guys were alive back then. I can't. But he said it was the first 24-hour convenience store. He got off work one night. I think he was smoking, and he went to go buy cigarettes. Jimi Hendrix was in there. So
Oh, wow. That had to be a long time, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't remember a store ever being
So
there.
I don't remember that either.
I don't, I was born later.
Yeah,
so.
because I remember it was Rio Bamba. Wasn't it Rio Bamba Bistro?
Yeah, Rio Bamba to Bamba Bistro to Oxenstone.
Yeah.
So,
And I believe it's still Oxenstone.
Yeah, it's still Oxenstone. But see, that's always
I
interesting.
ate there
though.
once. Food was really good.
Yeah, but that's always interesting. And in terms of that, like the challenges of like that kind of filmmaking, though, I know for us, like even like raising the funds and everything was always a pain in the rear. Yeah, did you ever hear there was actually the movie Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, which I've seen more than once.
Love that movie.
And the thing about that, the director came to the Eastman one time. He was talking. The way they did it, it took years to shoot because they would just shoot like at a friend's bar on the weekends.
No, I mean, your best way to do it, which is what we did, you have all your money down. I mean, it just makes it easier, and then you shoot right through.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge is you got to learn the market. You got to know how to make your money. If you can convince investors that they're going to get their money back, I think it's easier to raise money.
It's got to be a big job. I can't even imagine.
I mean, if your name was Harvey Weinstein before all your issues,
Yeah.
it was a lot easier to do that. But so.
But also, when you script, did you just ad lib it, or did you really have it written out? Did it go the way you expected it to go? And the reason I say that is, a lot of times, like I'll come up with an idea, And by the time it's done, it's like I start here, it's here, because it sort of takes a life of its own.
No, there were like times where we had to make adjustments, but nothing that like that scene I just showed you, which was like the motorcycle scene with the zebras. We were shooting in the Alabama Hills, which is in Lone Pine, California, and there was actually a commercial shooting, and they found out that the commercial wanted to shoot a 360, and which changed our location. So we literally had to find a different location at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So then we completely redesigned the entire scene, just because, boom, like all of a sudden, okay, it's different from what we imagined. But I think it actually worked in our best interest. So, yeah, it does happen. I'm a big fan of improv. Like, I wouldn't say stray from your script too much, but at the same time, I find when I used to do improv exercises and acting classes, I think the benefit of that is just everything seems more lifelike and spontaneous. And if you have people that are just adhering to a script, it can, sometimes you lose that spontaneity.
Well, Marlon Brando said, I guess, like, he didn't memorize lines. He said he had them fed to him because that's the way people talk.
I heard when he did some of his scenes in The Godfather that he was looking at cue cards.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I never really worked with him.
Yeah, he's a weird guy. He's like one of those, I consider him like one of my all-time top actors.
Right.
Weird individual.
I heard an interview with Billy Bob Thornton once, and he said he's got some sort of a reading issue, like dyslexia type thing. He has to have an aide. He has to have an assistant, read him the stuff. Mm-hmm. He has to memorize everything.
I actually did a scene with Billy Bob Thornton when I was in L.A. It was in Bad Santa. They were doing reshoots for Bad Santa. I don't know if you saw the movie.
Yes,
That was hilarious.
That was awesome.
It was kind of I was doing background, and it was a really cushy gig because it was like the scene where he makes all his money and then he goes off to Florida. And he's like drinking his money away. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
So it's the scene, we were there on the beach when it's the scene where he jumps over the bar and it looks like he's the bartender, but he's really making his own, So I was there during that. So, but he only had like 2 lines, so I hope he can memorize that. So I don't really have an issue with
My
that.
cousin used to do that stuff. He's out in L.A. now. He's an occupational therapist, but he did a bunch of background acting.
Yeah, it's fun, you get
got
to be on
his SAG
set,
card
so,
and all that stuff.
That's also fun there. That scene's great because you think, okay, he's got his money. He owns the bar. And then you realize that he blew his money.
Yeah.
That was a funny movie. I like really irreverent humor like that.
Yeah, that's probably the funniest movie I've seen in maybe 20 years. I'm trying to think of anything else.
That one for me is up there. That's just,
Yeah.
it's really just, I laughed a lot, and I don't laugh at a lot of
Whoever cast that little kid was pretty brilliant. So
Well, I guess what they did when they saw him, they just saw the kid and they said, that's the guy.
It's the kid, man.
Just by the look, Herman Merman.
Herman Merman.
But then did you see the sequel?
I did. I didn't mind it.
It was pretty good. Kathy Bates is always good.
I don't really remember it that much.
No, they bring him back, though. He is an adult now.
Oh, no. I remember him as an adult.
And he's still innocent, of course.
Right.
And he takes a bus and he goes to see him. Yeah. He doesn't bring a jacket. He goes to Chicago. He doesn't have a jacket. He doesn't have anything. He just comes out there and he's like walking around. Hi, I came to see you. He's in a rickshaw or something.
I think the guy who directed Ghost World directed Bad Santa. I forget.
I like Ghost World a lot.
Yeah, man, that's going to drive me nuts. I got to figure out who did that.
Well, I know Ghost World, that was based on Daniel Clo's book. It's a comic book. I think, it was the guy who I can't remember his name, though, now. Yeah, he directed Bad Santa, though.
This is the beauty of cell phones.
Yeah, see, we can cheat a little bit.
Terry Zweighoff.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's got a name that sounds like he does independent comic books, like underground comics.
He didn't write the film.
I was going to say, Terry Zweighoff sounds like he's making sausages
University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Well, I may not be far off.
Everyone in coal country makes movies because they have nothing else to do. So.
Yeah.
You're talking about locations. I remember when I was a kid, I mean, you guys probably relate. Like, used to watch all those westerns because they did them all on the back lot of all those studios, right? They'd go to Rancho, whatever, and then they had like this. Because I remember I read Clayton Moore's book, and he talks about where they used to do a lot of these Lone Ranger things. And it's like you see the same rocks, you see the same hills, and then all of a sudden you're watching like one of those movie serials, right? Like we're on. It's like, why does the moon look like Arizona, and why does the moon look like Utah? You know, right?
Or you'd see one of those, and then you'd see like Star Trek, and go, why does the foreign planet look like the thing from the Western?
Right.
It's amazing how much the rolling hills of California look nothing at all like Lithuania.
Right.
But that was like, I guess the time to be on the lot was like the one time in 1967-ish or so, Planet of the Apes was shooting on the same lot as Star Trek, as all these others.
Well, to me, it reminds me of the scene from Blazing Saddles when they're fighting through all the different movie sets. It's like, oh,
that's great. Fourth wall stuff. I like when they reuse sets. It's very interesting because you got to be creative, man. When your budget, well, you probably know, your budget gets a certain way, and you go, okay, we got to redress this, and that to me, that's an art in itself. I mean, I watch a lot of these special feature things about how they make stuff and Blade Runner and how they did the miniatures for Blade Runner and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, they actually flooded the set. All that rain, I guess, was real, and they said it was a miserable shoot, but they got the effect,
Anytime you do a rain set, it's like they have sprinkler systems, and the drops are bigger than normal rain.
Yeah.
you gotta see it.
Yeah, you can't see it. So. I actually just watched a movie, The Farewell, and they had this scene where everyone's walking around with umbrellas, but you can't see the rain. So I'm like, are they doing this on purpose? It's
right. Just to see if you're watching.
You think of, again, like budgets-wise, like I was talking about Star Trek, and compare like the original Star Trek, which budget probably wasn't even $1 million, to like something like Game of Thrones now, which is like $40 million. It's just amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, independent versus their standard studio too, and TV was just different back then. Yeah.
But that's one thing we really don't talk about as much, because actually I go in streaks with movies, and we don't talk about foreign films that much. And next thing I was going to do is revisit Fellini for a little while.
Okay. I haven't seen enough Fellini, but I can talk foreign films.
Oh, yeah. What are some of your favorite? Well, I've seen most of his, and I just want to do that again, because I go, like, another one I watch is Fastbinders one.
Okay. He did 400 Blows, is that his? Yeah, I've seen that.
Truffaut, no, Truffaut was 400. I saw Truffaut was 400 Blows.
Oh, Truffaut, all right.
Yeah. And
I have Satyricon, but I keep...
Werner Herzog.
Okay.
But who's, like, in terms of foreign films, do you have any favorites?
I'm partial to a French director called Patrice Leconte. He made a couple movies. They're all, like... The name, it's like Girl on a Bridge, Man on a Train. I don't know.
I've seen Girl on
the Bridge.
Is that one with Keitel and Mira Sorvino? Or?
No, that was Vanessa Paradis.
Oh, yeah, Vanessa Paradis.
The mother of Johnny Depp's children.
Yes.
So.
There was one called The Soft Skin. I think it was a French movie that was really good that I saw. I'm trying to think of one.
One thing, I look at a lot of foreign films and I go, you couldn't make these in America. Because I'll look at them and go, okay, the way the ending is, there's no way they would do this here. We'd have to get changed.
I actually ran into that with my film. Like, I had a Swedish company look at it, and they said, we could sell this if you were not American.
Did you start trying to work on the accents?
No, they're just like, when people watch an American movie, they have certain expectation. When they watch a foreign film, they have certain expectation. And if, like, they're going into like a foreign film thinking, okay, it's like this kind of artsy avant-garde thing.
Right.
I don't know if they were pulling my leg, but it actually kind of does make sense.
But they actually there was a commercial years ago where it's like a beer commercial, and these two dudes are watching a foreign film, and there's a clown looking at a dandelion and crying. And then they turn it off and they have explosions, like, no, that's a movie.
Yeah. That's artsy fartsy for you.
But I had a weird,
Well, how would you categorize like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Are we categorizing that as a foreign film, or are we categorizing that as an American
I think spaghetti
movie?
Western has its own kind of a subgenre.
I had a weird, now this is probably way wrong, but I had a weird revelation one time watching The Deer Hunter.
Okay.
Where I'm watching it going, you couldn't make a movie like this nowadays because the audience wouldn't have the patience.
Okay.
Because you have...
Well, I mean, I don't know. The audience didn't have the patience for Roma, but I think, like, I loved Roma, but at the same time, if anything tests your patience, that's that movie.
What is this?
Roma.
That won Best Foreign Film last year.
Oh.
It was nominated for Best Picture. It's a very slow-moving... I don't even know the name of the director now. I feel Karan did
Yeah.
it. Yeah, and everything he does is kind of like that avant-garde, slow moving.
I just couldn't see watching The Deer Hunter how they had those 3 acts and the way they set it up. And all I figured these days, they would have to get right to the action scene.
Which is kind of ironic considering movies these days are getting longer and longer. But they're just more action packed.
Irishman's 3 hours and 30
What
minutes.
year was Deer Hunter? Deer Hunter was
79.
78.
78,
I think.
79.
And Michael Cimini.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because then he did Heaven's Gate, which we won't talk about.
I guess John Cassell and Meryl Streep were dating at the time.
Yeah, they were, and I guess he died. He passed away.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite trivia questions. Yeah. It's like what actor every single movie he's ever been in was nominated for Best Picture, and it's John Cassell.
Oh,
so yeah.
It's funny too because like a lot of times when I watch or listen to commentaries or the special feature things, all the time the director constantly says, "I love this scene. This was a great scene. We really had it down." But in the interest of moving the movie along, it's always like this. The minute the movie slows down, it's like this horrible thing. It's like you can't. Sometimes you gotta stop and let the thing
I'll give you a good
go,
example.
and breathe.
I saw the director's cut of The Big Red One, and I thought that movie was far superior to the one that was released. And they do. That's exactly what they do. They slow it down a little. They elaborate, but it really adds more to the story.
Right, and that's good. And then you kind of go up and down, and you're emotional. You're invested a little more because there's a lot of stuff going on. If it's slam bam, bang loud shit all the time.
Well, I could write a movie right here for you. The current movie is you start off with the big action scene, then you sort of try to get like a semblance of a very harebrained plot. Then you do the bad guys start winning. The good guys regroup, come back. They have the big battle at the end. That's pretty much it these days.
You gave me a great idea. I thought like start with this huge action sequence and then just the film just got slower and slower and slower until it was just like
at the very end,
absolutely at a crawl at the end.
Until at the very end, it's just that final shot of the clown holding the dandelion.
Well, no, what we
That's a
do,
brilliant idea,
we have the big action scene like for 15, 20 minutes. Then the dudes just talk at the bar afterwards about the rest of the film.
That's how I felt about Saving Private Ryan. I actually just wish the movie was all D-Day.
Well, I just didn't like the photography. The photography bothered me in that. There was like based on the Fighting Sullivans, I think a little bit maybe.
Did anybody see 1917 yet? I wanted to see that.
No, I saw the trailers. It looks like it could be good.
Well, Sam Mendes directed it, and apparently I read something. It was in the reviews.
1916 or 1918. I might be more.
Well,
1917.
Well, they're calling it 1917.
No, but the problem I have, I saw when Midway, the whole thing about Midway came out. I was like real excited because I love history movies. Then I saw the trailer that based on the untold true events. Like, we know what happened. How was it? What is untold? We know what happened.
That's a good question for anybody who wants to answer. Like, I actually really liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I admit that.
That was great.
I thought it was great. But what do you think about Tarantino's take on history sometime?
No,
you mean that didn't happen?
I think from a dramatic standpoint, I liked it just because you're in. I sat down watching Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I don't want to I don't want to spoiler from them. But I had
It's out on DVD.
I had an entire anticipation of like how the thing was going to end, and then it was it was just kind of refreshingly new.
That's the thing about that where I admit, I won't give away the ending, but I will say one thing sort of at the ending. I actually started laughing at the ending.
No, I think it was I
was laughing my head off.
It was a very funny scene.
Brad Pitt reminded me of the dude he played in True Romance for a couple seconds.
Okay, which was written by Tarantino.
But I thought Brad Pitt really sort of stole the movie myself. I thought he was the best one in it.
Put Vanilla Fudge back on the map with that scene at the end. They're killing everybody, and they got to keep me hanging on playing in the background.
I was a fan of the dog, actually.
The dog was great.
Yeah. But I just love Brad Pitt's character. How he gets wasted, walks the dog. He's like, oh, yeah.
Well, the sequence when they go up to what was the name of the ranch?
Spawn.
Yeah, the Spawn movie ranch. And I think that was pretty wild with all the hippies and...
I was actually reading a big article on it about all the little things you can catch.
Burt Reynolds was supposed to play that role, and then he died.
Yeah. That's actually a movie I have to bring up that I really liked. You ever see The Last Movie Star?
Yeah,
No.
I think I did.
It's a story. It's
So
actually
The Last Starfighter. Is that count?
Oh no! But the last movie stars Burt Reynolds basically almost plays a character that's himself.
Oh, wasn't that his last movie? That was sad.
But what it turns out is he gets invited to some like film festival. It's like a little dingy film fest in somebody's basement, and he's a big egomaniac still. And what they do is they show clips from his like Deliverance, his old movies, and he just walks around town. It's almost like he almost knew. It seems like he almost knew he was going to die or something. Yeah. Because at the end, he just looks at the camera and does that trademark smile. Mm-hmm. But it's about somebody who used to be a big star and now he's not. But I thought it was really poignant, especially for a last movie for someone.
Well, but it was just sad to see him that way.
I'm trying to think. Last movie I saw him in might have been Boogie Nights.
Striptease.
Which I thought he was very good.
Oh, he was very good. Yeah. I always think of those Dirk Diggler.
Yeah. Right.
No, he was very good. He could act. It's just he got caught up in. He says that he really regrets that he actually got offered One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay. And
he turned it down. Yeah. I just know Ken Kesey was really mad about Nicholson being in that. He said that the person he thought would have been perfect would have been Gene Hackman.
Okay.
And I have read the book, and the book he doesn't look like him.
No, Gene Hackman's amazingly versatile. I think if you jump from, and sometimes you don't think of him as being versatile, but if what's the Wes Anderson movie, Royal Tenenbaums?
That's a great. I was just going to mention
go
that.
From
I have
him,
that.
Him in Royal Tenenbaums to him in like The Conversation, which was the Coppola movie, and then obviously more his standard movie, which was like Unforgiven, but
French Connection. Back in the day.
He could go like sometimes it's surprising when you'll see an actor and go, "Wow, he's playing a villain this time." But Gene Hackman could play good guys, bad guys, character parts.
You know who one like that with me for me is Ed Harris. When did he play a villain other than The Rock? But he really wasn't a villain.
National Treasure.
I've never actually seen National Treasure.
I think the
History of Violence.
Oh, he was. Yeah.
Was it? Okay. Yeah.
I liked History of Violence. Yeah. I don't know if I necessarily liked Ed Harris in that movie. Yeah. I think the movie I really liked him in was Apollo 13.
Yeah, he was good in that. Did anybody see The Mexican with Brad Pitt?
The Mexican.
I've actually not seen Gene Hackman, Julia Roberts.
Oh my God, it's so funny. It's a very surreal. It's one of those surreal kind of goofy movies. It's like he's in Mexico and he's looking Julia Roberts is his girlfriend. She throws him out.
That was like 01.
Yeah, it's a 90s, 93 or so. Mm-hmm. And he's looking for this pistol. There's this pistol that he's looking for, and it's just like this weird movie. And there's like this one scene where they show this like crossroads and there's a traffic light there, and it's like it just keeps popping up. The scene, there's somebody sitting at the traffic light, and it's like there's nothing around, and they're sitting there waiting for the light to change. It's like a weird. You should check it out. It's a pretty funny movie. Did you ever
see Twilight too? That's the one where Paul Newman gets shot in the nuts.
No,
I thought you meant the second Twilight.
Not the vampire movies, not the sparkly vampire.
I watched the vampire movie.
I made it through one.
I made it through a trailer.
Yeah. I watched them all.
Were they good?
I didn't mind them. It's just,
which one?
It depends what you're in the mood for.
Twilight, the goofy, glittery vampire movie.
Oh, I didn't watch those.
What's the Gene Hackman movie?
Twilight. It's just called Twilight. It's like a detective noir movie. Paul Newman, young Reese Witherspoon. And it's like, I think she vanishes or gets killed.
Wow.
And then they have the parents try to ever find out.
I feel awful. I've never heard of it. So.
Yeah. Paul Newman and Gene Hackman. So it's
which is a combination you'd think we'd remember.
Yeah, but. Gene Hackman, Paul Newman, and Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah. But I liked it. It was a good one. But that's a question I'll ask since we mentioned Wes Anderson. Is there any current director who, when he puts something out, you really go, I really want to see that because it's another one of his films? Wes Anderson, for me, would be one.
Yeah, he's great.
Well, I say my three. I think right now, I think Christopher Nolan's the best director in the world. So I would watch anything.
I see his new movie Tenet coming out.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Well, I named it after Doctor Who.
I picked up Dunkirk and I haven't watched it yet.
I like Dunkirk.
I like Dunkirk a lot.
Dunkirk I saw in IMAX twice, and so that was amazing on IMAX. So
I gotta see that.
I don't know what it's like watching it at home.
Did you see Interstellar in IMAX?
Yeah, that was cool.
I watched Interstellar.
I
watched Interstellar. It's like I don't think I have the knowledge to understand what these guys are rambling about.
Yeah.
I did a lot of I read a lot of astrophysics for a while, and I read a lot of Stephen Hawking. So all those concepts, they were like nothing to me. So I loved Interstellar, but I couldn't imagine going into that movie. Although if you watched it and you'd be like, okay, why does this make sense?
I was forever,
I thought that was
I was
really
forever
cool.
like sort of tarnished on Inception just because there's one guy at the bar who kept insisting it wasn't like for the average person and tried to keep explaining the levels of it to me.
Well, that's what I
and
mean.
I was like, I understood it fine,
Yeah,
dude.
if you
Shut
watch
up.
it makes perfect. It makes perfect sense. It's not
That's
as
a good
difficult
movie.
as everybody
What,
made it out.
Inception?
Yeah.
I made sense of Inception, but I couldn't get through it a second time. Maybe I'll try to watch it again.
No, but they're like, oh, it's so deep. I was like, it's really not
Well,
though.
it's deep in the person's mind.
Well, I had
yeah.
enough of my reading from my science reading that I could get Interstellar, especially the bending and
Well, the movie you have to watch from Nolan, which a lot of people haven't seen, was his first movie. He did it about on an $8,000 budget.
The one before Memento.
Yes, Following, which actually I would put in as top 5.
Following, yeah.
Following?
So, yeah, it's called Following, not no article.
Oh.
Yeah, I saw it.
If
It
you
was-
can dig it up, I mean, you probably could find it in the library.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
I got.
wow.
I think I got it
check
out of
it
the
out.
library.
There's a
It's
copy.
really
They
good.
actually put, I think, on one version of Memento, they stick it on there as an extra.
Oh, did they?
Did he do The Machinist?
No,
No, that was someone else.
I could probably write through his movies. So he went from Following to Memento to Insomnia.
Yeah.
Probably Batman Begins to The Prestige to
Prestige.
Dark Knight.
Prestige was a cool movie.
I like
to
The Prestige.
Inception to Dark Knight Rises
Yep,
to Interstellar to Dunkirk to Tenet. Yeah.
His movies
Nice.
tend to be big, but see, they're big and they're not, they're
yeah.
big and it takes a while to shoot.
Well, I think that's what it helped him with, once he started doing Batman, people got used to watching him in, like, high-budget films.
And it was a
then-
different thing where you tried to make Batman as much as you could in the real world,
Yeah.
where there weren't these guys with magical powers or anything else.
And he was involved with Man of Steel, which was why Man of Steel was good, and then the rest of them sucked after that. So.
Who did was it Wes Anderson did Isle of Dogs, right?
Yep.
That movie is awesome.
Yeah.
If you've never seen that, I love the animation style. The voice casting was incredible.
I just caught up on Wes Anderson movies like a couple months ago.
I
I'd
went
never
on
seen, The Aquatic Life of Steve?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of my favorites.
I went on a kick of his, so I watched that. The Grand Budapest Hotel,
Another favorite.
Yeah,
because I'd never
that.
seen it.
No,
I was like,
The one I do.
Darjeeling
That's the one I
Darjeeling
can't get
Limited.
into.
I sat down and watched that.
That's
too.
the one I can't get. But the thing I liked about Life Aquatic is it takes the idea you said, where I didn't know where it was going to go.
I thought there were similarities between actually Life Aquatic and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, in the sense
You
that
did not know where it was going to go.
Well, in the sense that here's this guy who has an established career, and now he thinks, "Oh my God, my career's over," and he's sitting around worrying about how he's going to jumpstart his career. So,
Yeah.
in that sense, the plots are similar. But
And the funny part was, it's like some of my friends for a Halloween show they played, they dressed up as the crew, and they got a real kick out of the rare people who knew who they were. It's like, you're supposed to be Hans.
So, Greg, I have a question for you.
okay,
As a maker, filmmaker, producer, whatever, when you watch movies, can you separate yourself from the? Ooh, I wonder. I see the lighting there, and I see what they.
no,
did
I don't.
there.
I don't think you ever can. So, like, I mean, you can still watch down and enjoy it, but as soon as you start looking at anything from the technical side,
My dad did the same
like,
thing.
you can also sit there and you're just calculating budget and how much money you can make on this. So,
Right.
So,
My dad did
yeah.
the same thing where, like, we saw Indiana Jones because he did film stuff. He would say, okay, this is editing here, this is that there. So,
Yeah, I don't think you ever can.
Well, it's like that with music too. I mean, I hear a record and I hear the way they produce this and the sound there and the way the drums sound. I mean, you hear it as a whole, but still there's a part of your brain that's splitting it all apart, and it's very interesting how that works as a creator.
So, but yeah, back to your original question. Probably the three people I would watch just on director recognition alone. It would have gone from Nolan to Tarantino to Ang Lee, actually.
Oh yeah,
For a
Ang Lee,
while, I
there's a-
had Ang Lee as the best director in the world. His last couple kind of...
not the
Although
Hulk, though, not the
I
Hulk.
haven't watched Billy Lynn's Long Walk Home. I tried to get it out of the library at
I
school.
don't know. I kind of liked his Hulk movie. Yeah.
You would.
I didn't mind
I
the
don't know.
Hulk
You
movie.
could argue about that one.
You know, when I first moved out to LA, they were shooting the Hulk, and it was like the last week, and I was so sad because I was like, I just want to be on set with Ang Lee and say, like, yeah.
Well, that's the thing now. Especially most Americans just think of him as that movie, but he had a really interesting career outside of that.
Watch some of his early stuff when he's kind of doing like these Chinese American movies. I think his first movie was called Pushing Hands, and then he did The Wedding Banquet, and then he did Eat, Drink, Man, Woman.
Yep.
And from Eat, Drink, Man, Woman, he went to Sense and Sensibility, and then he jumped to Ice Storm, and then he jumped to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
I forgot he did Ice Storm.
And then he jumped to Hulk, and then from Hulk, I don't know.
Brokeback Mountain's in there somewhere.
And then he went to Brokeback Mountain, then he went to Life of Pi, so it's...
that was an interesting
That was a good
Yeah.
one.
Life of Pi. I want to read the book.
The last one he did, Gemini Man, that was kind of...
Was that the one with Will Smith?
I wonder if that was based on
two Will
Gemini.
Smiths, actually.
But there was a
the double Will Smith.
there was a I think it was a Chinese Japanese called Gemini about, but it was more of an evil twin, same type of thing.
He should stay away from astrology.
But on that, I like for me, if I'm going to go for a director and just watch their filmography, I tend to go foreign. Like Park Chan-wook. I'm a big fan. He did the Vengeance trilogy, the original Old Boy, Snowpiercer. He did.
All right, I saw Snowpiercer.
What didn't
Well,
he?
Parasite's
Thirst.
supposed to be like huge. Like that's been on a lot of the best of, even though I don't read the lists.
Zhang Yimou, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right.
Yeah, big
He
deal.
did a lot of neat movies. I mean,
Those are always fun though. But as always, it's been interesting.
Oh, but by the way, before we leave, since tomorrow is Orthodox Christmas, and we have a threat from our sponsor, we have a gift to open. He said, open on air or perish.
did we go through the hour already?
Just
It goes fast.
So, Rob, here's for you.
Uh-oh.
And we have to describe it because
Okay.
obviously we're too
This
pretty.
says Rob on this is open on Christmas.
Rambling
no,
doesn't
the note,
take very long.
the note literally says, open on air only or perish.
That's good, and it's a shirt. It looks like it says
Oh, shit, that fell.
Nosferatu.
Oh, nice.
It's a gray shirt with a dark Nosferatu on it.
Brains.
I got the. It's
Oh
like
my
the
God,
Heinz
that's
logo,
great.
which says "Brains." 1968 virus, Pittsburgh, PA, zombie capital of the world.
Can I see yours again?
That's a
It
good
is.
one.
Thank you.
Our sponsor does find some.
But Greg,
interesting
number
things.
one, any plugs? Even though you're playing a lot this month,
That's
aren't you?
cool.
Me, yeah. I just got off of 3. I played at Iron Smoke. We shared the bill with the Jerry Falzone Liars Moon Band, which was really good, and then
What's your band?
Anonymous Willpower. And
One
then-
of them.
Yeah, and then Friday I played with another band. I played with the Brian Lindsay Band at Merv's for a happy hour, and then last night I played at Angry Goat with a duo, playing electronic drums and singing a bunch of lame songs. So
Angry Growth's like
I
my...
picked up
like
$90
that place.
singing lame songs. So
Well,
there you go.
I used to work at the cinema, and then it was at the time it was Elixir, and I used to get off work and walk across the street to Elixir.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
I
of course, we're
remember.
old Dublin days. Always remember.
I remember when it was Friends and Players, and we used to do a lot of stuff back then.
But why
in
is the
70s.
goat so angry still? Does he have
I
issues?
really don't know.
Goats are just
Remains man.
innately
So
angry alien
you feel they
creatures.
should change the name, like every once in
Maybe a
while.
little bit more happy goat.
Passive
maybe
aggressive goat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
passive aggressive goat.
The Xanax goat.
Midlife crisis.
Yeah,
goat.
it's like Chris's goat. But
So
nothing
maybe
you're thinking
4?
of doing. So I know you're recutting your film.
Yeah.
Anything on the horizon or down
You
the
mean
line?
anything else? Well, I told you we tried to get up that other movie, and we got everyone except the editor and the strategy that we did. But yeah, I'm looking to go to film school, so I'm trying to do more about politics.
And where can you? Because I mean, I've seen your movie a couple times, and it's actually a couple parts I really laughed at.
Yeah.
Parts I thought were really clever.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And where can people find it? Can they find it anywhere?
We're hoping to put it up on Amazon in a couple months. So it's called 3.14. So if you want to watch it,
Very
that'd
cool.
be great. Thank you for plugging it, Rob.
Oh, as always, that's what we're here for. But the one thing anything, Zach? I'll leave with one thing.
I got nothing.
My friends Ben and Katie's starting a music school, and there was a benefit we had recently. And one of our friends, Cammy Enaharo, she's leaving us to go to L.A. to pursue her music career more, and bless her and everything, and I'll miss her. But this has nothing to do with movies, but just because I miss you, Cammy, already, and I'm going to play a track from your new album. It's Cammy Enaharo and Dessert. Dessert's the backup band. And it's called Winter Solstice, which a little late, but it's probably snowing horribly by the time this is out. So thanks a lot, everybody. Greg squared.
Yeah, Greg squared.
See ya.
Peace.